Hey, how's it going? It's Daniel from the King Realty Group. Hope you guys are having a great day. Thanks again for coming in and watching our video here. It's July 2019 Toronto Real Estate Board Market Update. We're looking at June 2019 and we're comparing it to 2018. There's also a bit of insights in here. We do talk about the market in general, and we do specify certain markets as well. We look at Toronto, we look at Peel, we look at York region, we look at Durham region as well. And we also compile numbers, average price points for the entire GTA, but also micro markets and different housing types, detached homes, semis, towns, condos as well. This is going to give you a lot of insight on what's going on today in this summer, 2019. And stay tuned for some more info. Here we go. Perfect. Thanks for coming back, guys. We really do appreciate it. I know it's the summer months, so a lot of people are going on vacation. A lot of people are going to a cottage maybe, or maybe they're taking a flight to another country. Why would you leave in the summertime? Summertime is when it's actually nice here. It's been warm the last few months. I particularly like the warmth better than the snow and the cold, that's for sure. And I think that you should enjoy Ontario a little bit more than what most people do. Everyone takes their 2 weeks, 1 month vacation in summertime when it's nice here. You go to another nice place somewhere else. You should try to do it in the wintertime. That's what I think anyways. But hopefully you're still in town. You're, doing a little market research or a little bit of real estate info research, joining me at least here on a July day, or maybe August if you're watching this in August. What we're going to do, guys, is we're going to do review all the numbers that we normally do. These are obviously set in stone, things that happened in the month of June. And we review to kind of identify if there's any indicators, any trends that we can identify going into the future. First thing we look at, guys, is the average price point. So let's put those up on the screen right now. So we have the average price in the GTA for June. It was $832,703. So that's actually up 3% from last year. We also have detached homes here at $1,018,987, which is actually down 1.4%. So we'll talk a little bit about detached homes a little later. We have semi-detaches at $830,015, and that's up 5.3%. Towns at $664,921, up 3.9%. And we will talk a little bit about semis and towns because those are kind of those low-rise properties on the rise right now. A lot of sales and activity in those particular house types, and because the price points are very attractive. And if you notice, now that we go to condos are at $590,274, up 5.2%, and that condo price compared to the townhouse prices is becoming closer and closer. I said this in the last video as well. So we're seeing the trend that now condos are a little bit, they're starting to slow down in terms of sales. Listings are on the market a little bit longer than normal, or at least that what we've seen in the last few months. And yet semis and towns are a little bit more on the rise. So we might have that convergence of condos. The group of people looking to buy condos may now also start looking to buy semis and towns as well. So that's something that we're seeing in the trends, and you can kind of see it here in the numbers as well. So we'll move on now. We're going to take a look at the sales for June. So let's put that up on the screen here. So we have 8,860 sales. That's actually 10.4% up from June 2018. Now it seems like it's a great number, but you got to also look at the macro and what's happened over the last few years. It's actually still below the peak sales in 2016, which were just a little bit over 12,000 sales. And it's at 8,800. We're actually still a bit under our 10-year average as well, close to 10% less actually. So, we're still, in my opinion, still in a recovery phase. We're not reaching the numbers that we traditionally do every single year to year. But they are definitely improved over the last few quarters and the last few years. That's what I can say about sales. Still definitely an improvement, a lot more action this year, 2019. Let's take a look also, guys, at months of inventory. That's something that gives us some indicators of buyer or seller markets in different regions. And we do break it down per, these regions are still pretty big, I would say, but still it's not the whole GTA. So let's take a look at Toronto region. We got 1.85 months of inventory, or you can also look at this as 54% sales to active listings. If I look at the guide that I have below it, that sales to active listing above 50% almost looks like it's in the seller market. Maybe so. 1.85 months of inventory is actually pretty low as well. It means that there's not much inventory in Toronto. And I would say in certain pockets of Toronto versus others, there's probably a lot more intense, a lot more active, and a lot more heated than maybe some others in Toronto as well. Toronto's pretty big. Durham region, guys, were also pretty low at 2.12. It's at 47% sales to active listing ratio, and that means that we're kind of balanced in Durham region. Still pretty tight though. It all really depends on what you're selling and where you're selling. I think the entry level price points, under the $800,000 mark, maybe above 500. Those are a lot more active than things that are a little bit more expensive. because they're more entry-level price points. And so we're seeing that as well. Peel region is pretty active as well. It's pretty tight market conditions there based on the numbers. We got 1.71 months of inventory, which is pretty low, and that's 59% sales to active listing, which means technically we're in a seller market out in Brampton and in Mississauga, for example, and the region of Peel. That could be very true. If you do have some activity out there in terms of purchase and sale, that could be something that you're looking at. When you're looking at York region, it is improving still, though. I would consider it more so on the buyer market side. Like I have been saying for the last year, probably. It's at 3.54 months of inventory, though, and we have 28% sales to active listing. If you see previous videos, you're going to see that it was months of inventory was a lot higher. I even saw it at 5 months. And I saw the sales to active listing ratio down in the teens or closer to 10%, which means that it's strongly in the buyer market there. Now things are recovering there, and I think that if you're looking to get a nice big house, you want a little bit of land, you want to be close to the city, just north of us, York region might be a good place to go to get pricing under $1 million for a nice big house that used to cost over $1 million. Okay, so that is something that is occurring out in York region. So again, some high level indicators of a buyer or seller balanced market. Again, if you want to know exactly what's going on in your neighborhood, I would dive deep. I would go right into the intersection that you're at. I would maybe push out maybe 1.5 to 2 kilometer radius, and I would see what's going on in that pocket, because it's going to be very different than the whole of Toronto and the whole of Durham, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah, if you do want that insight, definitely reach out to us. You know how to get to us. It's 416-624-0135 for me, and you can definitely respond to this email here, and you can ask your question, and we can definitely respond to you and give you a better answer. Okay, we got the guideline in here as well now to let you know what buyer balance and seller markets are with the sales to active listing ratio. And that's something that you see below. So, that's really the numbers at the end of the day. What I do move on to now is really talking about some of the more, interesting topics and things that have happened over the last month. We're basically completed a second quarter of the year. We're halfway through. And so I like to look at the quarters as well as the month to month because it gives us indications of bigger trends. One thing that I noticed is that sales have rebounded in the GTA, right? So sales have rebounded in the second quarter of the year. We've registered 15% year over year increase versus the second quarter of 2018, which is, definitely a big jump. But still, compared to a few years ago, it's still a little bit below some of our peak numbers that we've registered. However, still one of the better quarterly performance in sales in the last 3 years, if you can imagine that. Sales are still below the 2016 peak, though, like I said, and about 8% below the 10-year average. So there's still some room for improvement there to get back to our average or normal levels. Whatever normal is. Demand growth has outpaced supply. So that's something that has happened. So it's led to a little bit of a tighter market. There was actually 6% less active listings than there were sales, versus 2018. My apologies, it's 6% less active listings versus last year. So we actually have less listings on the market, but we have a lot more sales than last year. So that shows us that, there were more demand, there was more sales than actually inventory on the market. Not to say that we're going to start, the same trend that we had in 2016. It's at a smaller scale, but there was more sales than active listings. Okay, so that's something that did happen, make things a little bit more tighter. We do need that environment, though, to continue our recovery. If we encourage more listings on the market because of increased prices, that's going to give us a little bit of a healthier market, or at least push us back to the numbers that we're normally used to. There's still, I would say that we're still in a more so balanced territory. The month of June 2019, Q2, it grew by 3%. Versus the 1% growth of that averaged in Q1. So, slightly more growth in the second quarter of the year. Still, at the end of the day, our average price is about 5% higher than 2 years ago and about 11% higher than 3 years ago. So there is an increase versus the previous years when we're looking at the average numbers. So that's encouraging because we should be in a place that traditionally, if you look at the last 10 years, we've averaged 8% price growth. So we're well below that still. But, I can, not with assurance, we have to really see those numbers once again on paper. But I still think that we're in a region of the world that we can reach back to those average numbers at some point. So that's one thing definitely to note. Now, when we're talking specifically about certain housing types, there's some interesting things to note. I mentioned earlier about semis and towns. There's a little bit of a rise in low rise. There's a bit of a rise in low rise sales. So detached semis towns account for a larger amount of sales versus the rest of the pie. There was a point where a majority of sales were condos, but the low rise is starting to rise up, so to speak. So that is happening. Condo sales specifically have actually declined 3% in sales versus last year, which, again, they've kind of had their own trajectory because condo sales have been pretty strong throughout the last few years, whereas low rise has actually taken a hit in a lot of different regions. So that's something that has happened as well. At the end of the day, condos still experience a 5% growth, but the inventory is edging a little bit higher and it's a little bit more sluggish in sales. They're not actually selling as fast as they were before. So that's something that is happening. And what that shows me is that because of the price of a condo is getting a lot closer to towns, it seems like towns and semi sales are on the rise. They're coming to the point where they may be outpacing or outperforming condo sales. So we'll see if that actually comes to be over the next few months. They haven't reached there yet, but over the last few months, I've noticed that's becoming closer and closer. At the end of the day, first half of the year, that's where we're at right now. That has set a stage for a positive second half of the year. I think there's still some room for improvement. It would be nice to have a lot more listings on the market, back to a normal level of listings and normal level of sales that we've had over an average period of time. So we're going to have to see if that actually does happen over the next few months. Hey, we don't have a crystal ball. We can't predict the future, but these indicators are showing that we still have a pretty strong market here in the GTA. Guys, I would encourage you below to download our Urbanation report. We have a link below. It gives you a lot more analysis than what I just gave you. It's a little bit quick, high level overview. But that report itself gives you a lot more charts, a lot more details of what's going on in your city. So thank you so much, guys, for joining me here. And if you made it to the end of this video, okay, I got a little surprise for you. Now, not all of you are getting this, but below we have a King Realty barbecue going on at Earl Bros Park, August 18. If you want some more information on that, message me. I don't mind, obviously, if I'm sending this stuff to you, then you're my audience, and I would love for you guys to be there as well. If you're interested in our barbecue, just give me a shout, just respond to this email here, give me a quick text, and I'll send you some details as to where to meet us and what time and all that sort of stuff. Okay. Thanks again, guys. We really do appreciate you. If you have any questions at all, please follow us on Insta and follow on the rest of our social. It's at King Realty TO. That's normally where you can find us on all social media platforms. We're getting a lot more response there. We're getting a lot of people speaking with us or engaging with us on those platforms. We answer questions there as well. It doesn't have to be traditional text message and emails anymore. It's a new day and age, guys. Thanks so much for joining us. You have a great day, and we'll see you soon.